reviews. COVID-19 pop-up vaccine clinics and transmission hotspots getting kudos.
It's very well organized. You're giving the right information.
And criticism.
Something needs to be different because clearly the word isn't getting out the way it should be.
And the province promising improvement.
We were surprised and, to be totally candid, taken a bit aback.
We really all need to be vaccinated.
As K-12 teachers across BC gradually get bumped up the line to get their vaccinations, there is a large group of educators not being prioritized to get the jab, and they're feeling left behind.
So no one told you life was gonna be this way.
It's the coffee shop set from the TV show Friends, right here on a lawn in Vancouver. Just ahead, we hear from the creator about the joy and the fans it brings to her neighborhood.
TV and smelly cat, smelly cat.
A man who openly flouted pandemic rules by using his penthouse in downtown Vancouver as a makeshift nightclub has pleaded guilty to 3 charges related to public health orders. Mohammed Mafasagi has been handed a sentence of a day in jail and 18 months probation. The ruling also means he'll have to cough up $5,000 and fulfill 50 hours of community service. The charges against him date back to January. Police found out he was using his suite as a nightclub, which was outfitted with special lighting, a DJ, and a pole for dancers. The judge likened Mofasagi's actions, breaking COVID-19 restrictions, to selling the powerful opioid fentanyl on the street.
I think the judge's scathing words were a reflection of what most British Columbians thought about his actions and his complete disregard for the health rules in place and the safety of other people.
There are 841 new cases of COVID-19 in BC tonight. 5 more people have died in the last day. 515 people are currently in hospital, 171 in the ICU. More than 1.7 million vaccines have been administered in BC, and a large shipment of Pfizer is expected to arrive here next week.
What that means is that over the next week, once we get to Monday of next week, we are going to be inviting people to book rapidly and age by age by age by age through the week. So this is going to move much more quickly now.
People 59 and older are now able to book their appointment through the province's online registration program. As of midnight, the age bracket drops to 58. A shipment of life-saving COVID-19 vaccines being received at Toronto's Pearson Airport just hours ago. This is Canada's first batch of the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine. Officials say 304,000 doses arrived today. The J&J vaccine was approved by Health Canada in March. Its use was paused in the U.S. last month following reports of rare blood clots. This shipment is in addition to 650,000 doses of Moderna that were also received at Pearson today.
Pop-up COVID-19 vaccination clinics in Metro Vancouver hotspots are getting mixed reviews over not getting the word out to those who should be the first to know, neighborhood residents.
Literally, you could stand at our street corner, look down the street, and you will see New Athletic Park. Family had no clue about it.
Generoso frustrated. She learned of the Newton Clinic right across the street from her parents through the grapevine.
I literally found out last night around midnight from an old coworker who messaged me because she knew I live close to, or my parents live close to the park. And she found out from her sister-in-law, who found out from a friend.
Newton's Pratap Sandhu also learned about the clinic from his sister-in-law, but he's really impressed.
There's individuals there who can translate for you if English is not your first language. But it was a seamless process. It's very quick. It's easy. I was vaccinated yesterday and I feel great. Today,
his family business offered paid time off to dozens of their staff to wait in line and get their shots.
We've actually just given them the day off. They're waiting in line. We've given them the option, depending on what time they're done their vaccination, they're more than welcome to come back to work. If they want to take the day off, they're more than welcome to.
But the last-minute word-of-mouth sprint to the clinic process isn't sitting well with Generoso, even though her unvaccinated family did get a shot today.
There is no communication with the community, which these are the people that you're trying to protect. But if they don't know about it, then what's the point?
A point the minister hears.
Could have done better in terms of communications. Let me acknowledge that. and we're working to do that.
With 4,100 doses given at pop-ups yesterday, Dix doesn't want the pop-up idea scrapped, but improved.
You never want to see pictures of a lot of people lining up. But that said, and we're seeing a little bit of that in Surrey today, but that said, we're going to continue our best to target those communities, and this is one way to do it.
Generoso hoping they figure it out.
Yeah, go old school if you have to. Get it out there to community flyers in multiple languages, in Punjabi, in Tagalog, and whatever other languages are predominant in that community, so that people can get the information they need.
For City News in Victoria, I'm News 1130's Lisa Yuzda.
You won't lose income if you need to go for your vaccine during work hours. The province has changed employment law, requiring your boss to let you get the jab and still pay your wages for up to 3 hours. This changes supplementary rules that the government previously brought in that let you take unpaid time off if you need to help a dependent get a vaccine. After months of pressure, the Ontario government says workers will be given 3 paid sick days to allow them to take time to self-isolate during the pandemic. The province's Labour Minister is saying employers will be reimbursed up to $200 a day for what they pay out through the program. Experts and advocates have long argued paid sick leave would help reduce workplace outbreaks. Ontario says the program will be administered through the Workplace Insurance and Safety Board. It will be retroactive to April the 19th and will end on September the 25th.
Would make sense to redeploy to hotspots, as long as, again, it's not just reacting to today.
The calls to redirect vaccines to COVID hotspots are increasing, but will Ottawa divert from its original plan?
From our perspective, we don't understand why our members would be excluded from that.
You know, you don't stop being concerned about your kids when they go to post-secondary.
If you teach kindergarten through grade 12 in BC, you may have already received your first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine because you are considered a frontline priority worker. As K-12 staff are being prioritized to get their shot, post-secondary educators are not.
Well, we teach adults, of course, so, and adults are a lot more likely to contract COVID-19 than children.
Taryn Thompson is president of the Vancouver Community College Faculty Association. She says she's been overwhelmed with calls from members who are concerned that post-secondary teachers are not getting vaccinated early along with the K-12 teachers. The college is one of 17 post-secondary institutions in BC that have staff raising concerns as to whether they will be fully vaccinated by fall, when BC post-secondary schools are planning to welcome students back to campus.
What if things slow down when we're hearing about possible shortages? For the younger faculty, if they're not immunized by the time September rolls around, or even August, it's getting to be late.
We were surprised, and to be totally candid, taken a bit aback by Dr. Henry's announcement on March the 8th that we would be returning to business as usual on campus September 1st.
Michael Conlon is executive director of the BCIT Faculty and Staff Association. He echoes Thompson's concerns, particularly with BCIT being trades and technical focused, meaning a return to class will likely require students and staff to work hands-on in close proximity.
Now, we're not sure if everybody's going to have 2 doses. We don't know what percentage of the institute-aged student body will be vaccinated by that time.
In response to concerns from staff associations across BC, Health Minister Adrian Dix reiterated the current vaccination rollout plans Wednesday and did not suggest any changes would be made to prioritize staff at post-secondary institutions.
I'm encouraged that people are enthusiastic to be vaccinated, and I want to encourage them to register. We are going to work our way through groups of vulnerable workers. We're going to work our way through communities. We're going to do everything we can to slow transmission.
Dix's response leaves many post-secondary educators feeling like they're being forgotten.
Once people get to post-secondary, these are still our children, and the safety of everyone should be of concern.
In New Westminster, Ashley Burr, City News.
It's probably best that we try and get our own courts.
Pickleball players call it one of the fastest growing sports in the province, but with so much demand, players across the Lower Mainland are running into some problems. Just ahead, the call for more dedicated pickleball space.
Drug toxicity deaths are on the rise in Surrey. RCMP say there have been 6 of them in the past week alone. While they don't know if the drugs were from one source, they do believe all of the deaths can be linked to the use of fentanyl and heroin. In 5 of the 6 cases, users were found in a private residence, which suggests they were using drugs alone.
We're urging people who do use drugs in the community to please exercise caution at this time, and we strongly urge people not to use drugs alone. Of the 6 overdoses that we did attend here over the last week, 5 of those were individuals who were located in their homes, in private residences alone, and we believe that they were using drugs by themselves.
Surrey RCMP say they've attended 70 deadly overdoses in the city this year. 20 of those calls happened this month alone.
The federal government isn't going to take vaccines away from any jurisdiction to go to another jurisdiction.
The Prime Minister telling CityNews sister station News 95.7 in Halifax that he won't be redirecting vaccines to COVID hotspots, at least not for now.
If there are individual provinces or provinces come together and want to make that change, we'll of course be there to listen and facilitate that.
Canada is submerged in a third wave of the pandemic, and provinces like Ontario and Alberta are currently the hardest hit. Daily case counts making record gains while hospital ICUs fill up, and some have started transferring COVID patients to other facilities. So far, most provinces and territories have targeted elderly Canadians and frontline health workers. But rising cases has some saying it's time to redirect vaccines to COVID hotspots.
It would make sense to redeploy to hotspots as long as, again, it's not just reacting to today.
Carr says governments must be ready to change strategies when provinces have covered their initial targets, but only after looking at the long-term benefits for regions in need.
Once you really get into those specific areas, then you have to start making decisions and pivot. Is something about the pandemic changing? Are we seeing outbreaks? Are we seeing hard to reach populations?
Despite the advice and pressure, the Prime Minister is not ready to change plans.
No, the federal government worked with all the provinces months ago to establish a per capita basis.
In Ottawa, Nigel Newlove, CityNews.
Doctors across the country are launching a new campaign encouraging racialized Canadians to get a COVID-19 vaccination. This is Our Shot, launched earlier today with a virtual town hall where doctors answered questions about vaccines in more than 24 languages. A number of celebrities have also joined the campaign, including Ryan Reynolds and Michael Bublé. Dr. Navdeep Brewal is a Vancouver physician, and he helped organize the campaign, and she heard concerns from the South Asian community about long-term safety of the vaccines.
We know that people are hesitant about taking the vaccines. They have many concerns, valid concerns, and we hope to be able to give them factual information from physicians and other medical professionals that they know that they can trust. There are no religious reasons not to take it. It's been safe and it's been condoned by various religious societies. It's vegan, it's okay to take, doesn't contain any meat products or fetal products.
For more information, you can visit thisisOurShot.ca.
So no one told you life was gonna be this way.
If you're a fan of the TV show Friends, you're sure to enjoy this recreation of the show's coffee shop set here in Vancouver on the lawn of a neighbor who wanted to connect with her community during an isolating pandemic.
I'm definitely a Phoebe, but I also have a mixture of Monica and Rachel. I think we're all a little bit of everybody. Around Christmas time, I had a bunch of a different set every day out here on the boulevard just to delight friends and neighbors and kids loved it. I was thinking of what I'm going to do next, and Friends is I just love Friends, and I know that it brings me a lot of joy, so.
Anne Bruin sits out here on Vancouver's west side for hours and invites people for physically distanced chats and to enjoy the set pieces.
I bought the coffee table, and then I had my husband put this green edge on it, and then I asked him to put these angle irons on, and he goes, "Really? Do I have to?" And I'm like, yeah, you kind of do, because that's what it is on the show. So try to make it as authentic as possible. They always had flowers. They always had the reserved sign, and I tried to make the reserved sign the same as theirs. Yes, Central Perk mugs. They came with a cappuccino coffee thing.
By now, Anne had hoped she would be able to fill these coffee cups so more friends and neighbors can enjoy it with her.
Now that we have such strong restrictions, I obviously can't have friends over, but I can be here in case somebody wants to stop and say hi or take a photo.
She plans to bring out the set from her garage every day in the summer, all while dressing up as the characters from the beloved 90s sitcom.
Phoebe and Smelly Cat, Lives can be changed with a simple conversation or a smile or a hello. I know my life has been changed with just a brief few words from a stranger. And so if I can be that for somebody, a connection that they don't feel alone in the world, then I'm happy to be that, because I've needed that in my life.
I'll be there for you when the rain starts to pour. I'll be there for you like I've been there before. I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too.
In Vancouver, Kier Junos, CityNews.
People are coming to pickleball in droves.
Pickleball players are running into problems as the demand for the sport continues to grow, especially with more people looking for outdoor activities during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The ability to have dedicated courts where we don't have to, manage, disputes and things like that is best for everybody.
Karen Watson with Pickleball BC and Burnaby Pickleball is calling on municipalities across the Lower Mainland to create more dedicated pickleball space, something she says is currently lacking, particularly in cities north of the Fraser River.
The problem is that many of the Parks and Rec departments across BC will engage pickleball players, others not so much. So in that reaction of demand for courts, they're quickly trying to just put pickleball courts everywhere and anywhere. And that's where you have the pickleball players coming up against others unintentionally. That puts us in confrontation with tennis players. It puts us in confrontation with neighborhoods where we don't really want to do that. We just want to come and play.
Pickleball clubs say shared courts like this one in Burnaby are problematic because it can cause tension between tennis players and pickleball players.
We might have to butt heads sometimes against different groups turning up to play, groups of 10 or less. And if the courts are filled, they will often need to go to somewhere else.
Julie McRitchie with the Pocomo Pickleball Club is also pushing for dedicated pickleball courts in the Tri-Cities.
It's probably best that we try and get our own courts. And we've actually just seen last week, I was there, and it was somebody was running, and then a tennis player was also going for that shot, and it was a near collide.
Another consideration when finding spots for pickleball is noise. Recently, the city of Port Moody voted to get rid of pickleball lines at the tennis courts at Chestnut Way Park after neighbors complained about the daily noise from matches.
It really caused some disturbance there. So we got the public feedback from them, and we decided to give them the opportunity to sort of revert back to where they're at. And now staff are going to be looking for alternate spots.
Over in Coquitlam, staff acknowledge the growing demand and say they're working with players to determine which existing facilities would be best suited to allocate for pickleball players.
We're working with them to identify some potential locations for this coming summer.
In the meantime, pickleball players don't expect the growth of the sport to slow anytime soon.
It has really exploded this past year.
In Burnaby, Miranda Fatour, City News.
The gentleman on the phone said, "Has anybody ever tampered with your car?" And I was like, "No, not that I know of."
Imagine this. You're driving down the road and your car starts making a horrible sound. So you take it to a mechanic and they say someone has been tampering with your lug nuts and your wheel was on the verge of falling off. Well, that's the reality for one Alberta resident living in BC. Heather Wooten is a student at Simon Fraser University. Originally from Calgary, she still has Alberta plates on her car as she studies full-time in the province over.
I know that there's a 30-day provision for switching plates in BC, but that doesn't apply to full-time students.
The incident leaving her to believe she was targeted because of her out-of-province plates.
I do kind of think that it was targeted. There's no way for people to know whether or not the person that you're targeting is a tourist or if they live there.
The incident happened before BC's Premier John Horgan enforced strict travel guidelines last week, urging Albertans to stay home.
We'll be putting new border signs along the Alberta border, reminding our travelers coming from outside the province that unless they're coming for essential business, they should not be here. They should be back in their home communities.
A friend of Heather's sharing the story on TikTok, expressing how dangerous this could have been.
If she had continued to drive that car for much longer, she and anyone else inside of it could have been killed.
I'm just absolutely terrified that something is going to happen to somebody else.
While she says she has no intention to change her license plate while she studies in BC, she does say she will inspect her car before hopping behind the wheel. In Edmonton, Laura Krause, City News.
Time is running out to file your income taxes. The deadline in Canada is Friday at midnight, and there are no plans to extend that deadline. So if you haven't already started crunching the numbers, you might owe the government some money this year, especially if you collected CERB last year.
What you should expect is that you're going to owe money. It's very likely that you will have a balance owing at the end of the year, which is coming up, right? It's going to be this Friday. So essentially, the issue with CERB was the fact that there were no withholdings at source that the government put when the people who were eligible for it were collecting the CERB. So unfortunately, for those individuals, they've automatically underpaid their income tax. Okay, because that's what a tax return is, right? You're determining whether you've overpaid or whether you've underpaid, and you've automatically underpaid when it comes to the CERB.
Vancouver's news is always available on the radio with News 1130 or online anytime at citynews1130.com. Your next edition of City News is later on tonight. Thanks for watching and have a great night.